So this is where I'm thinking of putting the shop sign. We've had it on the back of our minds to always have a shop sign somewhere. Originally we were going to put something on the wall, but never got around to that. But what we're going to do is we're going to dig a hole somewhere in this area here, put the post up, and then the metal sign on there. So this is the log I found in the forest underneath a whole bunch of tall grass. Pulled it out. It's been sitting drying for 2 years now by the shop, and we're finally going to put it to good use. So we're going to start by squaring off the end and putting a plate on there, standing it up, and then figuring out how we're going to make our sign. This is where I'm headed with the project, with the sign. So I just fastened it to a scrap piece of plywood for the time being, and kind of leveled it off. But now we're deciding whether the sign should go on the left or the right and which way the lettering should go. But it's going to be buried in the ground to about 16 inches, and that's about 4 inches below the first burl. Not a whole lot. Would like it to be a bit deeper, but it's not structural. It's just got to stand up straight. Well, I think the first step is we're going to put this log onto the sawhorses, and we're going to clean it up maybe with a wire brush and a bit of sandpaper. Square up the top edge, and then we'll stain it the color we're going to go, and of course it's going to be the cedar color like everything else around this place. So I think we're going to just clean up the log. Not much I can do with some of it, but we'll get rid of some of this leftover bark. Not much I can do about the wormholes, but we'll get rid of little things like where the branches were cut off, maybe sand them over or grind them down a little bit, and then we'll prep this log to be stained. So we've got the whole log wire brushed, got most of the gunk off. Now some of these burls are pretty soft, so it just ate right into it, but we'll take care of that, maybe just sand it down a bit. But I think the next step is we're going to try and cut off some of these little branch ends, make it a little bit rounder, and then we'll see what we can do about maybe getting a more even tone over the whole log. The bottom is actually not in the greatest condition, worse than I had feared. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to put wood preservative up to about 14-15 inches. I have a can left over from another project, and then we'll stain the rest of it. Okay, all we're going to use to knock off those little branch nubs is an arbortech turbo plane. Just put it on my 4.5-inch grinder, and that'll take it down real quick. Okay, well, it's all wired brushed. We've sanded down or ground down the nubs from the branches, and the last thing I'm going to do yet is to square up the top, and just to make it look a little bit better. But other than that, I think we'll stand it up and pressure wash it before we stain it. Well, we've thoroughly soaked the log with Bear wood cleaner. I don't know if it's going to do anything, but we'll let that sit for a bit. You're not supposed to let the product dry before you wash it off. So I'll get the pressure washer started and we'll rinse it off in just a bit. Alright, well, we've done the wood cleaner, we pressure washed it, knocked the dirt off, tried to get it as even as possible, but I don't think we're going to get it totally the same color. Probably when it's stained it'll look a whole lot better. But we're going to let it dry and that'll be the next step. The log's been drying for a couple of days. We've had rain over the past couple of days too, so I think it came out reasonably even. Probably not perfect, but once we stain it I think that'll even out a little bit. We're going to dig the hole and then we're going to put it in. Alright, one of the decisions we have to make is which side of the log to put the lettering on. And I'm kind of leaning towards the way on the left, but I put it to the family and everybody's got a different opinion, of course. And you look online for standards and there are none. So I think what we have to do is we just have to pick a side of the log, which I think is going to be this side. It's got the least amount of burls, or I can at least build the posts out to clear the burls here, and then the distinctive burls will be seen on the other side. So the hole we have to dig is got to be deep enough from here to a little bit under the first burl, which ends up being about 19 to 19 and a half inches. I'd like it a little bit longer, but we have to work with what we've got. Well, I've dug the hole where we plan to put the sign. I can only go about 19 to 20 inches deep before the first burl. The simple reason that I decided to dig first and then stain later was that we've had a lot of rain over the past couple of days. Digging through this stuff when it's dry is like digging through concrete, so that made it a little bit easier with being wet a bit. Might be a situation for too little too late, but so I just flooded the bottom with a end cut preservative that you're supposed to use for when you're framing with pressure treated wood to maintain the warranty. So I just flooded the surface. You can see that there's a bit of rot at the bottom of the log. So I just flooded the surface on the inside up to hopefully right below ground level. And we'll let this dry a bit and then we'll stick it in the ground.
What am I doing?
Just tip it into the hole.
Okay. Yeah, we're in. Want me to just move the cart?
Okay, another step done. We've got the log placed in the hole. We put concrete around there. We've tamped in a bit of dirt to give it a bit of stability while it dries. And the next step will be to stain the log. And after that's done, we'll work on the sign. The stain we're using is a Beauty Tone Wood Shield, water-based or 100% acrylic. In the cedar color. We've done our deck with this, and we've done some other projects around the property with it too. Nice color. So I'm hoping that it'll even out the color of the log, and let's get to it. The log is stained, happy with the result. Turned out a little bit darker than I had anticipated, but I'm liking it. Of course, just when you start to paint, there's the threat of rain. Isn't that how it works? Just like washing your car. The minute you're done, it rains. Anyway, I'm pretty sure it'll dry before it rains, and next step is to make the sign. A while back I was doing a project for a gentleman that owned a metal shop. We put a kitchen in for him and some other cabinets, and I asked him if he would be able to cut me a sign out of some metal. and he put it on his CNC plasma cutter and came up with this. So this is going to be the sign portion of our project. So the font chosen for the CNC machine to cut out the letters is called stencil, and it has all these little tabs, and I'm going to cut some of them out just to clean it up because they're not required. But you do need them for instance, the D there has to be held up. The center of the D needs a tab, and bottom of the O's, but I don't think we need the top, so I'm going to cut out the unnecessary tabs next. Okay, well, we've got the excess tabs cut away. I think it looks pretty good. Yeah, they weren't required, and I think it just cleans up the wording a little bit. And a little bit of touch-up grinding where it's a little bit sharp, and I think we're good to go. To determine the bracket size, we have to account for the fact that the log is not the same size at the top and at the bottom. So I set up a bit of a plumb bob with a chalk line and set it about 2 inches outside of the burls, and wrapped it against the board that I screwed to the top of the log. We'll take the measurement at the top and the bottom and add that to our bracket length, and then the sign should be vertical. Well, the measurements from the plumb bob ended up being 4 3/8 on the top and 3 15/16 on the bottom. So what we're going to do is we're going to make a bracket at the top. 4 3/8 plus the width of the sign, which is 12, ends up being 16 3/8, and then we'll do the same adding up on the bottom with the 3 15/16. So let's make 2 brackets. Well, we've got all the scrap metal pieces cut, ready to go. We've got the welder set up, and we're going to weld these brackets. Other than cleaning them up a bit, I think these brackets are done. Now let's put them on the sign. One of the things we want to do before we actually attach the brackets to the sign is we kind of want to curve the bracket to match the curve of the trunk, just so it fits a bit better. We're still kind of deciding which way to put the lettering, whether to have the lettering say from the woods from the bottom up, from the woods with from the woods red from the top. Okay, well, we took a straw poll and not sure which way the lettering should run. So the results are in. Everybody thinks it should be this way, but on the left-hand side. We're going to do it that way, but yeah, it works both ways, so not a big deal in the end. Okay, well, we've got the bracket attached. I've just kind of spaced it roughly in the center of the bracket, and we're going to do a weld on both sides to hold it in place, and do that for the top and the bottom. Okay, well, the brackets are all welded on. I only welded on the back. I think that's strong enough to hold the sign. So the last step is we're going to just spray paint the brackets themselves black. I think the sign we're going to let rust, and I kind of like that look, and we might even help it along with some vinegar and some solution, and then we'll put it up against the log. Well, the paint's been drying for a couple hours, so now it's time to wrestle this up on the log. Well, it's up. A log from our forest with interesting burls, some metal from a client, and a bit of time, and we've got ourselves a new shop sign. Yeah, I'm happy with the results. Maybe leave in the comments whether you think I got the lettering the right way, but this is how the straw poll ended up. This is how everybody thought it should be. Anyway, fun project. We're glad that you could join us, and hopefully you'll join us again for another video coming soon. Thanks for watching.